everybody, this is Jack Hammer from the Santa Rosa Press Democrat. Hope you are all doing well on this Thursday evening. Usually on Thursday nights, I come in and do the Hammer and Nail show with Jesse Naylor. Tonight, we had a little bit of a glitch in terms of traffic, slowing me up with getting back from the stadium and practice today. So Jesse had another show that he needed to jump on, so he wasn't able to start a little bit later tonight, unfortunately. That's on me. So you know what? The good part about that is instead, you guys get to hear me talk to you. You guys get to call in. Let's talk a little bit about where the 49ers are 2 days into training camp. We have a long way to go before we get to the regular season. There's still a lot of practices to go, 3 preseason games. But the good part about it is the team was on the field today in Santa Clara for day 2 of training camp. A day in which the defense definitely won. Very good day from the defensive side, especially in the secondary with Travarius Ward. Emmanuel Mosley had a good day. I had a good day yesterday as well. Jimmy Ward with a big interception of Trey Lance. Just a really good performance. You had a nice pass breakup from Talanoa Hufanga, the second-year safety. A lot of good things happen in the offensive line kind of getting shaken up. You have a competition at center between Daniel Brunskill and Jake Brendel taking place, with Brendel giving way to Brunskill today. As far as first team reps, there was definitely a split between those two. You have, because of that going on, you have Spencer Burford lining up at right guard and Jalen Moore out at right tackle with Mike McGlinchey not full go yet in practice. So definitely some change ups there. You had Drake Jackson, the rookie second round draft pick, with a big day today with a nice sack. Would have been a sack on Brock Purdy on a play that would have it was really the longest throw of the day for the 49ers from Purdy to Danny Gray on a deep post down the middle. So lots to talk about. I'm sure you've probably already read through my recap at 49ers.pressdemocrat.com. Hopefully you did, as well as some of the other ones that are out there, or maybe you're even at practice today in Santa Clara. The place was full both of the last 2 days. So a lot of good stuff to talk about. We have Korean 49er here on the line. I'm going to jump on and bring him in, and we'll see what he has to say about the 49ers. Hey, Korean 49er, it's been a while. How you doing?
I'm good. How about yourself?
I'm good. What's going on?
Yeah, you had that lovely traffic to and from Santa Clara, I assume.
Yeah, it's worse than I was thinking. I guess maybe because now COVID's all let up, everybody's back to work. So I need to figure a way to get on the road before 3:00.
There you go. Could always be worse.
That's right. Could be.
So, couple topics I want to talk to you about, Jack. With the DK Metcalf and the other wide receivers getting big contracts this offseason, I've always kind of felt that John Lynch and this front office is a little more reactive than proactive. I mean, Debo had the big season last year, and he wanted to. I believe Debo came out or may have said, I wanted to start negotiations on a new extension on the contract a little bit sooner than what the 49ers may have wanted to do. Because I hope that kind of goes towards being more proactive instead of reactive.
Mm-hmm.
Because they could have saved a little bit of money on this potential Debo contract. They could.
I don't know. I hear what you're saying, because the thought there is probably if you do it earlier before everybody else signed, that they would have been able to get it cheaper. Is that what you're thinking?
A little bit cheaper, not too much cheaper.
I don't know. It's interesting because you look at the big contracts, and a lot of the movement with the receivers this year has all come from Tory Dandy's clients, right? Who also is the agent for Deebo Samuel, and so. Dandy is the one who put together the contract for DK Metcalf. So I think you have an idea of where they are. I wonder if that, if part of the sticking point in this deal between the 49ers and Samuel is the length of the contract.
Could be. I mean, if I was Debo, I would take a little bit shorter contract so I can get another chance at another payday. Maybe have a 3-year deal and maybe have that third year be an option year. The mutual option year where they could renegotiate then, just throwing options there.
No, you're right. Like if it was a 3-year deal, it's really 4, right? Because it's this year plus 3 more. And the 49ers typically like to go longer on these extensions. They tried to go to 5, right? Which is really like keeping him here for 6 more years. So I think that might be part of the one of the issues that they're debating, especially when you look at the deal with Metcalf, only 3 years. That's a 3 years and a $30 million signing bonus. That's one that would be tough for the 49ers to match right now with Jimmy Garoppolo on the roster.
Yeah. So next point I wanted to talk to you about is when Lynch and Shannon had the press conference earlier this week before the start of camp, and John Lynch said there's going to be a move on Dee Ford.
Mm-hmm.
At my current job, I have a coworker and a friend who's an Auburn alum. He told me this about Dee Ford. Appreciated what he did at Auburn. He contributed to the football team there, but he had a mysterious back injury that they couldn't ever figure out. And then I started, in my own head, I had questions about Kansas City wanting to move on from a defensive lineman who got 13 and a half sacks. To me, most teams want to keep that kind of player, that kind of productive player. Because to me, I don't think that, a back injury is one of those where you can't screw around with. It's not like, I could break my leg and, there's a good chance that it'll come back stronger and, the bones will come back and heal stronger than what they were before. Because, I understand players get hurt, but I don't want, to me, it just seemed like D could never really get healthy for whatever reason.
Yeah, he had the back injury dogged him since he was at Auburn. He had that back in college, and you mentioned it, and it was one of those things where I'm pretty sure that played into the Chiefs being willing to let him go. The Chiefs, really made out with that deal with would they get 2 second-round draft picks, or I know it was 1 for sure. I think about it, it was 1 or 2.
I think it may have been 1, maybe a first-round pick.
No, I don't think. No, it wasn't a first-round pick, but I think it was a second. Whatever it was, the Chiefs got the deal they wanted. They had used and the 49ers got something out of him in 2019. He was definitely part of the reason that defense was so good early on. And it was definitely part of the reason why that defense was so good through the playoffs. But I think I heard today where they paid him something like $40 million over the time that he's been there, or somewhere along those lines. Paid him kind of crazy money for basically 40 games. He was getting over $1 million just for every game that he played. And I think he had under 400 snaps during his time in San Francisco.
If I could get that kind of contract, I'd retire too. So I believe you would consider retiring too, I should say.
If you're going to give me that kind of money and I had that to put in the bank, I could definitely retire and live nice and easy for that. That's for sure.
That'd be fair. That's a fair thing to say. Absolutely. But one last, I guess, 2 last points. We all rag on Parag at times, and rightfully so, the way he negotiates some of these contracts for the 49ers front office. Mm-hmm. And how I feel about Jimmy. Here's my question to you. When Parag negotiated that contract for Jimmy and had some of the outs that would be of minimal impact to the 49ers, salary cap wise, I can't blame Parag for writing that contract up and Jimmy and his team agreeing to it. Mm-hmm. But I kind of wonder about last season when our cornerback started getting injured and they went down for extended periods. We had to get Josh Norman and Drake Kirkpatrick off, in the free agent. And at times it looked like kind of a mess with the cornerback play at times, with, Norman getting penalties at inopportune times and Drake Kirkpatrick looking like he didn't have much left in the tank to contribute. To me, go ahead.
No, go ahead. I'm sorry, I interrupted you.
No, I'm just thinking that I believe they may have had an earlier out. I don't know all the terms of that contract, but I believe they could have had an earlier out and may have gotten a little bit better player compared to Josh Norman and Drake Kirkpatrick. I mean, they played a long time in the league, and you can never take that away from them. But it looked like they were, maybe spent.
Well, that's okay. So there's a couple of things there. Let me hit the Jimmy Garoppolo contract first. I think the 49ers did the best they could when it came to the Jimmy Garoppolo contract when they signed him, when they gave him that deal, because I'm if you go back to 2017 when they made that move, they didn't have a lot of time with him. So their choice was: do you just give him the free agent? Do you just give him the franchise tag, let him play that out, and then do the contract the following year? Or do you, how do you work that? So with the 49ers, kind of got themselves stuck in a spot there because the 5-game win streak kind of screwed it up for them. That's the bigger piece of it. Because with the 5-game win streak, everybody's on a high. The smarter move probably would have been just to give them the franchise tag, pay him, because the contract that they gave Garoppolo was basically just multiple franchise tags with outs after a couple of years, right? They could have just done the franchise tag in 2018. Then he gets injured. Or do you then bring him back the next year on a deal that's maybe a little bit less? Does he take a little bit less, coming off of the injury? Or do they have to franchise him tag again, which is going to be more expensive than what they paid him? Because when you look at his contract, remember they front loaded it a little bit. In 2019, his contract went down, so they had more money in 2019. It's one of those things where the way that they structured that contract was so team friendly. If anything, they could have moved him, before last season. That was the time when you were going to do it. I think 2020 when they, there was a flirtation with Tom Brady. I think that was a little bit tougher time for him because I think the dead cap hit was going to be kind of high, if I remember correctly. But I think they did the best they could on that deal. I don't know. I don't really complain about that. I don't think it really kept them from doing a whole lot in terms of signing guys. Might have slowed them down a little bit this year, but I think they still put together a pretty good roster. And then in terms of the defensive backs, that was a situation I didn't like the way that they put the defensive back room together going into last season. Jason Verrett, I understand that he was a monster in 2020 coming off the bench. You remember, he wasn't really supposed to be the starter. He was going to be a backup, and then injuries. Richard Sherman went down. That opened up the door for him, and he had a monster season. But the question going into last year was, is he going to stay healthy? Because he'd never done it before. He'd only done it he never had back-to-back healthy seasons in his career. We saw it happen. Unfortunately, week 1, he goes down with the injury, and then you got young guys that have to come off the bench. They try to go with Lenore. I think, he goes into the doghouse because of the way he kind of blew the game at the end of the Packers game. And then they're stuck, like you said, using Josh Norman and Drake Kirkpatrick and Buster Screen, who just retired from the NFL earlier a couple ago. Those are guys that came through the door last year for the 49ers at cornerback. And that's all because of the way they set it up back in, at this point in the season. And you could see it coming. I even wrote an article for the Sports Illustrated site about the concerns on the secondary side in the backfield, defensive backfield, because they didn't have depth. And the worst case scenario hit them for sure last year. And I'll tell you what, though, that signing of Trevarius Ward changes so much about this team.
Hopefully, Trevarius Ward will lock down that one cornerback spot for years to come. Hopefully, that will be the case.
Yeah, I think that'll be the case for the next, at least for this year. I think it was only a 3-year deal, so at least for the next 2 or 3 years, I think they're in a good spot there. And now it's a matter of can they develop some of these guys. I really like Samuel Womack as well. I think as a rookie, Womack as a rookie, I think is ahead of where Ambry Thomas and Deommodore Lenoir were at this time a year ago.
Yeah, I agree with that. So, and one last team point, then I'll let you go. Mm-hmm. With, when they did trade for Jimmy, and I believe it was 2017. Does that sound right? Like mid-season, give or take. Mm-hmm. If you were to tell me that I would trade an asset, a second-round pick, and have a chance, make a Super Bowl, even though they lost that one, and 2 NFC Championship appearances, I believe around 95% or above 49er fans would take that. Would you agree with that?
Repeat that one more time.
We traded a second-round pick for Jimmy, made a Super Bowl, even though we lost it, and made 2 NFC Championship games in return for a second-round pick.
Yeah, I think, Jimmy Garoppolo gets a lot of grief for whatever reason. I think majority of the grief around Jimmy Garoppolo is because of the injuries. Because you take the injuries out when he's been on the field. I know that he's not a perfect quarterback. I know that he's, somewhere in the middle of the road in terms of starting quarterbacks. But when he's been on the field and he's been healthy, he's been a help to the 49ers with winning games. He's not necessarily I think there's only a few times where you could say he's the reason they won the game, but a lot of times in those wins, he's played a role in it, just as there's very few times when you can say it was all his fault that they lost. But, in some of the other losses, you can say he played a role in it. So you have to kind of, I know there's, people are always on one extreme or the other when it comes to Garoppolo, and it's hard to be in the middle. That's kind of where I am. I think the guy did a lot of good things for the 49ers, and it's going to be interesting to see how the 49ers play with Trey Lance, how this offense moves. It's going to be different, and it'll be interesting to see if it's going to be if it's going to be able to be smooth, or if it's going to be kind of herky-jerky like what we saw a little bit at times last year. I know it's only first two starts in the league. So we'll see where it goes from there with him, but it'll be interesting to see how the offense flows with the new quarterback.
And to me, I always thought that Jimmy was kind of a very complicated figure on the 49ers because you knew that he didn't have, John Elway or Dan Marino style, a huge arm, but, somehow the team with him starting found ways to win. It's like, it was kind of, I guess I hate saying it, but perplexing in a way.
Well, that kind of goes to what Steve Young said. Remember in the interview that he did last week, where Steve Young talked about how Jimmy Garoppolo, is an A+ deliverer of the football. I think he was saying, but you don't necessarily know where it's going to go all the time. And then he was saying that Trey Lance, we don't know where he is yet as far as that goes. And I think because, part of what Steve Young, I think, was saying was that Jimmy Garoppolo wasn't afraid to let it rip. Right. He was a gunslinger mentality, but without a gunslinger, without the gun of a John Elway or some of these other guys. Right. He wasn't afraid to take those shots into tight areas. And it burned him sometimes, and other times it worked out great for him. And that's where I'm not sure if we're going to see Trey Lance be willing to take some of those risks in the middle.
I think the only time I ever recall, and maybe this is a figure you'll probably remember Brett Favre would always throw without his feet on the ground, but still it would get there. And I was like, he was the only quarterback I can recall who ever did that and still have success, throwing touchdowns with not having his feet planted on the turf.
Brett Favre, you said?
Yes.
Yeah, he did that sometimes. Jeff Garcia used to do that too. Remember where he?
You're right.
He kind of do that. He kind of do that jump pass over the middle, like if he was at times he kind of get up and because he wasn't that tall, so I think sometimes he had to get up on his toes, and would end up being a little bit of a jump pass to get over the line.
I would agree with that. So, yeah. All right, thank you, Jack. Have a nice weekend.
No problem. You too. Have a good one, and I'll talk to you down the road soon.
Yep. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. All right. So Eat Kim coming in, doing a good job there with the first call of the night. A lot of fun talking to him. There's a couple of comments over here I wanted to hit, or at least one. Drew James, he asks, "Thanks for your work, Jack, with the defensive backs. How is Tarvarius Moore, number 33, looking back from the injury? Slower or faster than Hufanga? Just a glance from the first few days." Haven't really seen a whole lot of Moore, at least in terms of making plays. So not really sure kind of where he is yet. That's something I'll keep an eye on when I'm back up at practice on Saturday. I'll be able to give you a little bit better answer. But I will say that I think Hufanga's doing well. It's interesting when it comes with Hufanga, the way that the 49ers secondary, I should say, as a whole, they're not playing very much too high safety. That's what they did last year quite a bit. There was a lot of too deep safeties. This year, so far in the first couple of days of training camp, we've seen a lot more of single high safety, which makes sense. It makes sense that they would be able to play more single high safety, because typically part of the reason why you play too high is because you're trying to help out your cornerbacks. You're trying to protect them. And so I think last year, with the difficulties they were having after Jason Verrett went down, that created a need to go a little bit more too deep. on the back end. Now with Charvarius Ward kind of being able to lock down one side in the man coverage, Emmanuel Mosley being a pretty good corner on the opposite side in terms of man. The other piece when it comes to Mosley is, remember, a year ago, Mosley was dinged up. So he wasn't at full speed and full health at the beginning of last year. This year, he's fully healthy. I think that's helping him as well. Both of those guys, both of those corners, Ward and Mosley, have knocked the ball down twice in the last 2 days. There were 2 pass breakups from Mosley yesterday, 2 for Charvarius Ward today. There was also, you can maybe one for Mosley on a deep shot down the left sideline from Lance to Brandon Ayuk. Tried to go deep down the left sideline. That was actually it was an incomplete ball, but it was a good play by Trey Lance in that Nick Bosa had jumped off sides, so it was a free play, and he launched it deep down the left sideline to Ayuk, who was almost, he had his hands on it, was almost going to be able to get it coming down. He lost handle of it, but would have been a heck of a grab if he'd been able to hold on to it. So, I think the safeties are doing well. I think the backfield on the back end is going to be good. Expect to see a lot of single high safety with Talanoa Hufanga and Jimmy Ward kind of rotating between who's the single high. And I'll have to get keep an eye on it to be able to try to give you guys an understanding of why one is the deep versus the other one. We'll see how that goes. And then Drew also asks Burford versus Jalen Moore for right guard or tackle spots. I think one or both could win a job on the line or be the sixth swingman. I think you're looking at those two both being on the offensive line, one of them being the swingman for sure. I think if you're asking me to tell you right now what's going to happen at center, it's going to be I think Daniel Brunskill is going to win the job at center. It's trending in that way right now. I think he didn't practice throughout the offseason. That was all Jake Brendel. But now that Daniel Brunskill is back healthy, yesterday we saw him taking all the snaps with the second team offensive line. Today we saw him rotating in with the first group. So I think Daniel Brunskill is going to win that first team job with the 49ers at center, which is then going to create a competition at guard between Burford and Moore. And whoever, I think the 49ers might be more willing to go with Burford at that right guard spot and let Moore be your swing guard tackle type of position. At this point with Mike McGlinchey, might think McGlinchey is going to be healthy and ready to go week 1. So that means that Moore has to be, right now Moore's taking those reps on the outside. And I really, I'm not super high on Jalen Moore as a tackle. I like him much more at guard. I think he's struggling. He struggled at tackle during OTAs and minicamp. He's struggling at it now. So it shouldn't be surprised that they're having some trouble on the right side of the offensive line. They really need to get Mike McGlinchey back. That'll solidify the outside on the right side a little bit. And I think I think what you're looking at right now is it seems like Justin School's kind of sliding down the depth chart as well. So look at, Colton McKivitz it seems to be the guy that's ascending. He played at left tackle last year with Trent Williams out. McKivitz can play guard and tackle. We've seen him do that in 2020. He did that last year. He was playing tackle, so he can play all over the offensive line, left and right side. So it's something to keep an eye on there with this offensive line group. And then we got Amin the Dream in the house, and he says, who is your favorite non-49ers player of all time? Favorite non-49ers player of all time. That's an interesting one. Who would be my favorite guy that was not a member of the 49ers? I think it would probably be Walter Payton would probably be mine. As far as non-49ers, it'd be Walter Payton or Barry Sanders. One of those two would most likely be my favorite all-time non-49ers. Loved watching those guys run the ball, especially Walter Payton. Barry Sanders was a magician too. It's funny, he struggled against the 49ers though. The 49ers had a good game plan against him for the most part, and the 49ers would blow up the Lions all the time back in those days. But yeah, I would say Walter Payton first, Barry Sanders second. For me, and remember, Joe Montana is the greatest of all time. So you got that one as well. Let's go. I'm going to take another call, and then I'll get over to there's some more questions coming on. I got that Niner guy. I don't know if hopefully he's on board. How you doing, that Niner guy?
What's up, Jack? How you doing?
I'm good. What's going on?
Oh, by the way, mine's Steve Smith.
Steve Smith, the former wide receiver of the Carolina Panthers.
Yeah, when I was a little kid, that was like when I first really got into football, and that was the year they made the run to the Super Bowl. Do you remember the games like Steve Smith just went bananas on the NFC, getting the Panthers to the Super Bowl? Like that was one of like the best things as a kid. So he was maybe one of my all time. That is a phenomenal question. You can go down a rabbit hole as far as like if you're an old football head like you, and for me, even I'm fairly young, but I can still name tons of players. But no, it's a great question. Damn. So Jack, no, I jumped on a couple of reasons. First, I want to get to. I was kind of shocked to see Burford playing guard and Moore playing tackle. I thought it would have been flipped.
No, they've been working with Burford's been playing inside pretty much all along, other than rookie minicamp.
Okay.
Rookie minicamp he was working at tackle, but during OTAs and everything, all of his reps were coming at guard.
Which is interesting because I know he played 1 year at guard at UTSA, and then he played basically two years at both tackle spots. So, but I mean, he's longer and taller than Jalen Moore, right? From bird's eye.
I would think so. He's a really good size, right? He's I was just talking about that today at practice. He's extremely quick. He's got really good feet, and he's really strong in his upper body. He has a really good. He's really strong with his punches. When he fires out and he gets into you, when he gets his hand on, you can hear it. It's kind of hard now with all the music they play at training camp, but during OTAs you could really hear it.
Yeah, no. That's good to know. Like his tape was really good. Like I watched him a little bit, and I really liked him as a player. Before before we even got him, so I was like, sweet when we did draft him. But no, Jack, I wanted to ask you since you've been at camp. I'm not going to ask you too many crazy questions, but what's been your biggest surprise so far?
My biggest surprise so far. That's a really good question. I think the thing that surprised me the most was what they're doing at center.
Okay.
It was something that I thought that might happen, but I'm surprised in that they're doing it, and it's kind of creating a lot of movement along the offensive line. But it's right now is the good time to be doing it, because if Brunskill can win the job, then you're fine, because those guys have been working at guard and tackle all the way through. If Brunskill doesn't work out at center, they know that they can pump him back over to right guard. They know what they're going to get out of him there. So might as well let him take 3 weeks or so a few weeks to work at center, see if it works out. And if you can't, you put him back. So I think that's maybe the biggest surprise for me is what they're doing there at the offensive line. Beyond that, I would say I knew the secondary was going to be good, or I felt like the secondary was going to be good, but the way that Ward and Mosley have played the first 2 days is very impressive.
Yeah, so one of the other questions I wanted to ask you was, are they in more of a press alignment, or are they going to do that 10-yard off the ball stuff? Like, I know it's super early and like it's not a ton from what you've seen.
I haven't really been focusing in on their alignment because I've been watching the line play more, kind of getting a better idea of there. And then once I see what's happening there, then I kind of transition my eyes downfield. But I haven't really been paying attention too much to their alignment on the outside. That's something I'll keep an eye on when I go back up on Saturday for you. But I just think, I don't know if they even really have to be up really tight, because those guys are so fast and quick. They're able to stay off and drive on the ball and get there. Like yesterday when there was the first throw that Lance threw out to Juwan Jennings that was broken up by Emmanuel Mosley. When the ball came out of his hands, there was a gap there. He was open. It was just that Mosley just broke on the ball, and it didn't get, there's been a tendency on some of these out routes from Lance for the ball to kind of take its time getting there. And I think those two things played a role in him being able to break those up yesterday.
Yeah. I mean, Trey's not going to be perfect. I know you know that, but I guess that's news to some people on Twitter. Those are good points. I would say how's Afunga looked like in general? Has he been like just, I know it's early, but like overall, do you think he's gotten better from where he was from when you saw him last year?
Hufanga, yeah, I think Hufanga's he's a guy that I felt all along is going to be much more solid than some people were talking about. He's a solid player. He knows where he's going He knows where he's going. He puts in the work, and he's been around the ball a lot. And they've been using him both, as a deep safety, and then they had him up in the box. Yesterday was maybe a little bit more, I would say, as the deep safety yesterday than today. I think they're kind of going back and forth with those two.
Well, I mean, that's good though, right? Because I think one of the big skills of having Tart and Ward was they could interchange at times, right? Kind of throw off the looks of a defense. Where like having a Funga being able to do that too, I think is a big plus for D'Amico disguising the looks. So, no, I mean that's great. I think I remember like the big knock on Funga was in college he got hurt a ton, and then also his speed. His speed was definitely a concern because he ran like a 4.7 40. And that dumped him down the draft order. But I mean, I think everyone kind of looked at his tape. You knew he could play. So
yeah, I mean, this is the guy who was a consensus All-American, Pac-10 Defensive Player of the Year, and all those kind of things. Who just got bumped down really because of the health issues. But he's a solid player. I think he's going to be productive for the 49ers, and he's smart. He knows what he's doing back there, and playing alongside Jimmy Ward helps him.
I think playing alongside will help a lot. Jimmy Ward help a lot of young safeties.
Yeah, no, exactly. That's not, and that's not even. I'm not even trying to put down Talon Hufanga, but it's more of a bump up for what Jimmy Ward does, because having that veteran presence back there with him, I think allows him to do some things and between helps him out, and they help each other out, because he was much better when he worked with Jimmy Ward than the one game that he started without him.
Oh, no question. I mean, it's not often like in the NFL you see two super young safeties, because you always see a veteran guy and an ascending young guy that the team likes. Like that's not a position group where you roll out two rooks and go, okay, here you go, have fun. Like
right,
you'll keep giving up touchdowns all the live long day. So that's the last thing you want.
Yeah. No, it's been interesting. The defense definitely ruled the roost today. I was just kind of looking through the numbers with Trey Lance. He was 7 of 15 today. Doesn't sound good. He had two, there was a couple of really nice plays by the defense, especially the one play by Charvarius Ward down the right sideline. That was the play that was the best play that he made today. The other one was a nice one that he knocked down over the middle, but that was there was a lot of pressure around Lance. I think he probably would have been sacked if it hadn't been in practice. He kind of just chucked it over the middle a little bit late, and then you get the breakup from Ward. But the one down the right sideline, that was beautiful. It was a really good pass by Trey Lance. It was going to be right on the money, and it just shows you how good Charvarius Ward was. The pass was good. The coverage was better. Just as the ball was getting there, he puts his hand out, knocks it down. It was really nice. Yeah,
I mean, I think the thing about Ward that maybe people slept on was the fact that he really only had like one bad game last year, right? It was the game where they went to Cincinnati and Jamar Chase lit him up. But after that, like he had like one of the elite seasons for cornerbacks last year. Like all of his coverage numbers and all of his like yard separation stuff are really like top notch from the next gen stat stuff. So I mean, you can't believe all of that, but it gives you a good indication that he's a really good athlete. He's long and could get make plays on the football, which is what they desperately need.
Yeah, that's and what you just said right there in terms of him. That's everything the 49ers look for, right? A guy that's they really like those guys to be long in terms of being able to, and that's he kind of brings that to the table. He's got the speed, and he's a better version. He's a better version of Richard Sherman, right? He's Richard Sherman, but with the legs still.
Yeah, no, Sherman was a little dead. His legs were a little dead when he came here. He didn't quite have that speed anymore.
Right. He was still solid, trust me, but he didn't have those legs like he used to. And so we saw that unfortunately hurt him in the worst part of the season, at the worst time possible in the Super Bowl.
Yeah. And then progressively all of 2020, where he got the old injury, he got the old veteran, you're injured, that's why you're not playing, but really we benched you.
Right. Look at this one real quick. Then we got to get this one. This is actually, I didn't even notice it until we got the question. I don't know if you saw this, but Andrew wants to ask if you're Andy Reid.
No, dude. If I was Andy Reid, I'd have a lot more money.
there is kind of a resemblance, though. Maybe we figured out your Halloween costume for this year. You can just put on a cheese hat, put on a headset, and away you go.
I get James Corden a lot. I got that chubby face like James Corden. I get that one a lot.
I see that a little bit too.
I also do my hair the same way he does, so I get the James Corden one a lot.
There you go.
It's all right. It's worked with a couple ladies, so it's fine.
Hey, there you go. There you go. There you go. The James Corden doppelganger on the show.
There you go.
Remember that for next time.
I just know a lot more about football than he does. No, I think I'll leave you with this. You probably want to get to comments and stuff, and maybe other callers, but I'll leave you with this. I don't know if you saw. There's actually two things. Number one, Arizona, the Cardinals removed the Kyler Murray homework clause, so that's hilarious. And number two, Justin Fields threw five picks today, and no one's freaking out over there. Like, yeah, it's the second day of camp, so everyone, relax. He'll get in the rhythm. I don't understand why Niner fans can't do that here. Baffles my mind. But, and Trey didn't have that bad of a day, sounds like. It actually sounds like, little mistakes here and there that are very fixable. He just needs to be more consistent, which is the basic touch and understanding that we all had going into the season. He was going to be inconsistent. There are highs and lows with playing a 22-year-old quarterback with limited time playing football. And just you got to live and die with it.
Yeah, I think really quick on the Trey Lance practice today. I know that everybody kind of wants to skew positive when it comes to Trey Lance. And there were some, and here's the thing. Today's practice from Trey Lance was up and down. And if anybody tries to make it seem like he was good today in practice, you need to think about what they're saying to you, because he wasn't good in practice today. He had some good throws, but if we go back, if I just look at his day, right, his first pass was a little check down over the middle. Easy little throw underneath, rush off the side, mostly gets around Kittle, completes underneath. They come back from there. They have a blitz that comes at him. He throws it over the middle. That's the pass break up by Travarius Ward. And then he has two really bad throws after that. So right now he's 1-1, one of two. But then he comes back, and this is a tough series for him because they run a deep out to Brandon Ayuk on the right side. He's open. The ball is high and behind. Incomplete. The next play is going to be a quick in to Jawan Jennings on the left side. This is an easy gimme throw, not even close. It's way behind him. And then the next play is a scramble, which is a positive. I'm not going to knock Trey Lance anytime he runs, if he's able, especially in a situation like this. I like Trey Lance as a scrambler way more than I like him as a designed runner. So he made a real nice scramble down the left sideline. His next possession opened up with a scramble. Had some pressure, scrambled for a big gain. And then after that, he had a completion to Kittle, which was a nice one. Tight coverage over the middle. Probably might have been a sack during the game because Aaron Banks got beat by Maurice Hurst, but he fitted in a nice area between the linebackers. And then he had a nice completion to Ray Armstrong. So he was 3 of 6 there in the first half of practice. And then you come back, I think that's 6. Maybe 7. I don't know. I'll have to recount my numbers. But then, and then in the second possession, after they break, they go to work on special teams. It's kind of like a halftime show, right? In a way. And they come back after that. And the first play was a really nice one. He does a really good job. Pressure, moves to his left, hits Brandon Ayuk over the middle for a nice gain. The next throw he has, pressure right up in his face. Nice ball over the middle to 15, Jawan Jennings. And then from there, we had the deep, we had a nice throw over the middle to Kittle, quick one. And then the deep ball down the left side. And it was and then he had the interception, which was bad. He came back, had a pass breakup by Hufanga, the pick by Ward, and then the deep throw down the right sideline. They got knocked away by 35. So it was an up and down day. His numbers reflect the way that his day was. Is it anything to get all worried about? Nah. It's day two of training camp, and we have a month and a half before the first regular season game. So put it in perspective. Day 2 of training camp.
You're 100% right, and that also is, I think the realistic expectation for Niner fans, right? It's like, listen, the processing stuff Trey's going to get right. It'll just again, it's kind of what Steve Young said, right? Sounds like for the most part, maybe he didn't go to the right place all the time with the football today, but being the deliverer of the football, that sounds like that was an issue earlier today, and he kind of bounced back a bit. But those high and inside throws where you're missing, those are big time problem throws. Those ones you don't want to see. But no, I expect that. I think more Niner fans should. He's going to look great sometimes. He's going to have the true up and down day. But I like the way you phrase it, though. Overall, though, it's not a good day, and I think that's fair.
Yeah, and it's okay to say that he didn't have a good day, and that's I think there is a tendency right now for people not to be willing to say that when Trey Lance struggled, that he struggled. They want to make it about everybody else, and the same. I keep seeing some of it for me. I think is that some of the people who've been ripping Jimmy Garoppolo for the last 5 years are now making the same excuse at the same place that they weren't giving Garoppolo the benefit of the doubt on, are going to give you the opposite with Trey Lance. Now it's Jimmy Garoppolo sucked. Who cared about what went into the numbers? Trey Lance was 7 of 15, but let me tell you about the drops. Let me tell you about this, and let me tell you about that. Okay.
To be honest, though, the drops I heard from Jimmy Garoppolo and camp were from the defense more than the offense.
Zing! But that also plays into some of what I was talking about earlier, where Jimmy Garoppolo is just a deliverer of the ball, right? We need to see Trey Lance kind of do some of that in practice. Fred Warner talked about this last year, right? Where he basically told him, look, this is practice. This is your time to take chances with the ball. Remember how he was talking about that? And then he started making some better, then he started making the bigger plays because he started taking chances with the ball. Let's see if he starts to take some chances with the ball. Let's see how he plays that out. Yeah,
no, he will. I just, again, this is also install time too, and I know that. Most people don't know that. So they're definitely, trying things a bit. They're still working on timing, which is the most important part of any passing game. And so especially in Kyle's in particular. But yeah, no, I get that. I know a lot of people don't quite understand that. So some days might look ugly, but it might be ugly for certain reasons, But no, overall, this is what I expect. But I feel like the expectation is so polarized because of what the hell's been going on here the last 2 years. And people should just relax a little bit and come back to earth is all I'm saying.
Yeah. So we'll see. We'll see how it works out. I appreciate you calling in, though. We'll have to do this again.
Anytime, Jack. I'm always down to talk football.
All right. Sounds good. Thank you, then, Iron Guy. You too. As Raphael 5629er says here in the comments section, hit that like button, everybody, and the subscribe as well if you can, if you're not already subscribed to the channel. And we'll get into a bunch more stuff as we go through. I want to look in a couple of the comments. We have this is James Foster. Thanks for the super chat. Thanks for the donation. He says, Jack, you demand. Mine is Tom Brady, easy. And that's back in response to Amin the Dream, who asked who the favorite non-49er was. James Foster is a big fan of Tom Brady. I'm sure Amin likes that one. Andrew says, Jack, will you be in Minnesota for the joint practices? No, I won't be in Minnesota. I don't have the pay yet to be able to afford to go out there. So I will not be out in Minnesota for the joint practices, unfortunately, but I'll be around most of the 49er practices in Santa Clara. I'll be there's only a couple here and there that I'm going to miss, but I'll be at pretty much all those. I'll be at all the games. Going to try to hit up a couple of road games this year too, but joint practices aren't in the budget right now. Ricardo says, thanks for coming on. He says, hey, Jack, a little late coming in. How's Banks looking at left guard? Apologies if you covered this already. Banks is looking okay. He's looking all right. He got beat today by Maurice Hurst on one play. That's the first time that I've seen him really get beat so far this off, in the first 2 days of practice. But we'll definitely be keeping an eye on that. But so far, I think he's been looking okay. Hurst just got him really quick on one move today. So something he's got to pick up, and we'll see how he progresses if he's able to do better as they go forward. Let's see what else we've got. If there's any others. Andrew says Jimmy's winning the quarterback competition without even practicing. Nah, let's not even get into that. That's not where it is. Great call, that's for sure. And then we've got David Villa who says Mr. Jack Hammer, also known as Thor. Oh, that's a good one. That's a good one. Thor. All right, I'm gonna bring on another caller. I haven't spoken to this person before, so I'm gonna just change my background real quick, but we'll get this going real fast. And we have Mr. Blue Magic 23. How you doing, sir?
Jack, I want to say first and foremost, I appreciate you. I found you through Grant's page.
Uh-huh.
And between you and Jesse, I love when you guys are on with Grant. Y'all compliment Grant so much because Grant, I love him because he's so high sprung. But the way you guys take aside your personal investment as a fan and look at the actual football aspect of the team is absolutely breathtaking.
Appreciate it.
You guys don't speak with your hearts. You speak with logic, and it's refreshing. I want to say this to all my Niner faithful and all those who are lurking in the shadows. We don't expect Trey to be Pat Mahomes. We don't expect him to be Brady, nor Steve Young, who he keeps getting compared to due to part talent and part situation. All we need is for Trey to be Trey. For whatever reason, and this is something I've been searching around, just trying to figure out. We have so many rookie quarterbacks who are projected to be a lead and they're going to go down as Hall of Famers before they put on a pair of NFL cleats. Trey is the first rookie quarterback that has had this much heat. Nothing he can do is right.
Mm-hmm.
Anywhere outside of the 49ers organization, no matter what Trey does, when it comes to practice, just like you spoke, Jimmy gets the benefit of the doubt time and time again. Jimmy has very nice qualities for an elite backup quarterback. Jimmy is the type of back I was never sold on him when we got him from New England. Mm-hmm. But what I did respect was he has certain qualities that you would love. Grant said it the best. He said Jimmy is a backup who wants to be Brett Favre. You can't be a Brett Favre game manager. At this stage in Jimmy's career, I do wish him the best. But because Jimmy is so charismatic, he's gotten away with so much. And once we release him, he's going to come back down to earth. I really wanted to catch Flav because Flav has been in everyone's, and he's the biggest, Jimmy supporter. When we see Flav in the chats, it sounds like it's just he doesn't like Trey because he's a big Jimmy. I understand exactly what he means. Trey is an unknown. Look at Jamarcus Russell. When Jamarcus Russell came from LSU, he was ranked and raved about. And he gained 17,000 pounds and played about 3 games. So we don't know what Trey is. We project these players to be something that we want them to be. Just because a person has potential, it doesn't mean that they have to achieve that potential. They don't have to. It's not a guarantee that they'll live up to it. With Trey's football IQ and his natural ability, I honestly believe with our roster, even though this offensive line that's what's going to make or break us. It's not Trey.
Mm-hmm.
The offensive line. Because we're not gonna have Trey being a gunslinger. Not in his first full season anyway, unless he just surpasses even Kyle's expectations.
Yeah, Trey Lance doesn't have I don't think Trey Lance has a gunslinger mentality in any way with the way that he plays the game.
And Kyle is, and for Kyle sometimes is so smart that he gets in his way. I honestly believe Kyle understands that, especially with the love that people had for Jimmy, he can't get in his way. He can't believe he's smarter than everybody. This is if Kyle doesn't get Trey right, he's gone.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, no, that's for sure. He needs. Well, I mean, look, the 49ers just used 3 first-round picks to bring in Trey Lance last year, and that's a big investment. They're moving on from Jimmy Garoppolo. They're going down this path, and if Trey Lance doesn't pan out, and if the 49ers are not good this year, and Trey Lance is playing bad, and the 49ers are, I think, the seat gets hot for Kyle Shanahan. But then I think it goes into next year, and if they fail again, then maybe he's gone. He's got a couple years here before.
I say 2 seasons the most.
Yes,
he's going to get a pass. He's going to get a pass this year because it's Trey's first full calendar year. We finally getting rid of Jimmy, but what's going to make or break us? I don't expect us to win a Super Bowl. I don't expect us to go deep in the playoffs. I believe there's a possibility if everything falls right, but with the recent years and the injuries, that's highly unlikely. With Trey being a rookie, with everybody having to learn, Trey's not the only one that has to learn. We've lost a lot. Our offensive line is in rotation right now. We don't know who's where. We don't know who's exactly healthy from injuries. That is the biggest thing, because it's not just about protecting Trey. We still have to run block. And if we can't run block, then we're going to put even more pressure on Trey in 3rd and long situations.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what happens once the pads come on. The 49er, they don't tackle in practice either, right? We're not going to see tackling until they get to the preseason. But the run game has looked sharp. It hasn't looked bad. There's been a few times where they get stuffed, but for the most part, it looked pretty good yesterday. I felt like the few times they ran the ball today, there were some good runs there. They were a little more pass heavy. I think they used team period at some points today, almost as their 7-on-7 time to get a lot of passes in. But I'm not as worried about the run game as I am with some of the pass stuff. And I think even the pass protection, that's going to work itself out as they work their way through training camp. I think by the time they get to week 1, offensive line is going to be settled. You're not going to have the group that's in there right now, which is all new. There's going to be it'll be back to Trent Williams at left tackle, and Brunskill will be out there, McGlinchey will be out there. So 3 of the 5 starters from last year will be back. So one way or another, they might be in a different spot, as far as center instead of right guard, but 3 of the 5 are going to be on the field week 1. I think.
Now, if we can get our 3 legitimate starters, I'll feel more optimistic. But even when you go back to the Rams, we have always dominated the Rams on the ground. The Rams shut us down on the ground. So with the unknowns of the offensive line right now, if the Rams were able to figure it out, and we have one of these toughest schedules this year, and they're as a defensive coordinator with this new young kid and the turnover, I would force the Niners to have this kid beat me. I would put all my stock into stopping the run. So for me personally, this year is going to make or break is going to be our offensive line. I've watched Trey's high school games. I've watched his limited college games. The kid is very smart. He make 90% of his throws. They're very protected. He's not going to be a turnover machine. We don't have to worry about that like we have in the past. But I am so I'm so worried. And then with Debo not wanting to be a running back, I just think teams, especially with our schedule, are going after our run game. Like they're everything that they scheme up is going to be to attack this offensive line and stop us on first and second. Like that's where that's the basket everyone's eggs are going in. But I don't want to hold up and steal too much time. Jack, thank you for having me, and it's always a pleasure to hear from you.
Sorry about that, guys. Had a little glitch with my internet that caused me to go offline there for a second, and unfortunately, we had a really good caller on the line that appears to have dropped off as well. So I apologize for the technical difficulty there, that little glitch. But it's been a really fun show tonight. A lot of good comments. Let me see if we have any over there before we wrap up the show. I apologize again for the technical difficulties there. He was making some really good points on Trey Lance. And I agree with him. Let me go through and see what we got, because you guys, we had a lot of comments coming over here too. Let me just go through. You guys were really talking quite a bit, and I will say, there was one that you guys had asked me about. Definitely, like I said, I wouldn't be able to go out to. This was from George Bailey 2.0. He said, Jack, what if we fans get you a ticket? You're talking about getting me a ticket to head out to Minnesota. Hey, if you guys want to, if you guys can put together the money to get me a plane ticket and, about $500, I guess it would take between for a hotel room for a couple days. If you guys want to do that, I could probably get a flight out to Minnesota for a couple days on Southwest. I could probably make that work. That's pretty much the way that this works, right? That's part of why I have the YouTube channel. I get paid a little bit for the writing that I do, but I also do the YouTube piece to help with supplementing that as well. So, hey, if you guys want to help me get out to Minnesota for that, absolutely, I'm not going to turn that down in any way. So, and then let's just see. I'm not going to get into some of those things, but it was a really good call. James Foster asks you guys to hit the like button. I say that as well. Please hit the like button. As far as the offensive line, we have, he says, I should hope the current practice O-line doesn't start the season. If they did, it might only win 4 to 5 games. Yeah, that's not going to happen. You're going to get the guys that are playing right now that are in that first group are most likely going to make the roster, but for the most part, those are going to be your backups, I'd imagine. James Foster says they won't be trash. Trey won't be trash. He just might not be a top 10 quarterback, and that's okay. If you, I don't know if anybody was expecting Trey Lance to come in and be a top 10 quarterback this year. I think you're surprised. You're kidding yourself. I think this is a guy who, the numbers I put up, the numbers that I expect are basically the same thing that we saw from Jimmy Garoppolo, maybe a little bit less on the completion percentage side, but he's going to make that up by getting the ball down the field a little more. We'll see how it plays out. We don't really have enough data to really give a solid number. I mean, in his 2 starts, he averaged 2 touchdowns and 2 picks. He started 2 games. In those 2 starts, he had 2 touchdowns and 2 interceptions. And 3.8% interception rate, 3.8% touchdown rate in his 2 starts. So we don't know what Trey Lance is going to be yet. We know what I will say, and what I think we know about him is that he's a little up and down, because we saw that in his 2 starts last year. We've seen that from him a little bit in training camp so far. There's a little bit of this with him. If the rest of the team can support him, like we've heard Kyle Shanahan say, the rest of the team's going to need to support this guy. He's young. They're going to win football games. If the rest of the team is struggling around him and they're putting it all on Trey Lance's shoulders, they're probably not going to win very many games. He's going to need some help early on. I think the second half of the season could be a little bit of a different story. And then in terms of James said, rather you travel for a bigger game. Well, I'm telling you right now, the way that the 49ers schedule sets up, they're not traveling east of the Mississippi. They're not even traveling east of Denver after week 6, other than going to Mexico City. I won't be going to Mexico City, but I'm looking to go down to Los Angeles for the Rams game. And I might go to one other. I'm thinking of maybe going out to Denver for that one. So there's a couple of them on the horizon that I'd like to hit. So we'll see. But and then if they make it into the playoffs, or there's a big game down the road, most of those games are going to be at home. So we'll see how it all shakes out for the 49ers, because there's down the stretch, they play the majority of their games at home. So that's it. I think we'll wrap up the show right there. It was we had 3 good callers. I apologize for the technical difficulty there at the end. But like I said, it's been 2 days of practice, a little up and down from Trey Lance. Really good day yesterday. Very, very efficient yesterday. The efficiency wasn't there today. There were some good throws. There were some bad throws. And here's where I'm going to leave it off when it comes to Trey Lance. Don't make excuses for Trey Lance. Don't feel like you have to minimize the mistakes that Trey Lance makes. It seems like that's something that people do. It's okay, because seeing the mistakes, talking about them objectively, understanding that they're happening, makes it so that when he doesn't make those mistakes, it makes it even better. So don't be afraid to talk about the bad stuff, because today wasn't all good. Wasn't all bad, but it wasn't good either. It was a up and down day. It was a struggle for him a little bit. So just be fine with it. Be willing to say that he struggled today. Know that if you say that he struggled today, when you say that he did good tomorrow, it means even more, because it's an accurate statement. So anyway, love all you guys. Thank you very much for all the fun tonight. And as Raphael 5629er says, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. He's always doing that. And he says, great show, Jack and callers. But before you guys leave, if you could hit that like button for me, if you're not already subscribed to the channel, hit the subscribe button. Also hit the little bell notification so you know when we go live. I will not be at practice tomorrow. I have some other commitments I need to take care of, but I will be back there on Saturday. So keep your eyes out on the channel. We'll be coming live to you on Saturday from Levi Stadium with the report of Saturday's practice. Take care, everybody. Have a great rest of your Thursday night,